Hello there, struggling hunters. Welcome to another episode with the struggling hunters. You got me, Joe, and then you got,
Mr. Eric. I don't know
and
why I said
together,
sorry. I totally messed up the intro, but I don't know why I just said Mr. Eric. I was like, it just felt right. Sorry. Go ahead. Finish off with the intro. My bad.
together we are the
Struggling
struggling hunters.
hunters.
Well, at least Eric has come out to let us know who he really is, who he really wants to be.
Yeah.
He wants to be Mr. Eric.
Oh man. I really chopped up that intro. Totally messed up the flow on that. Kind of feel bad now.
Oh, that's all right. I'm sure. I mean, it was important to you, evidently, to be called Mr. Eric. So
Yeah. Just
at
sounded
least we
right.
got that out.
Uh,
Hopefully, you feel better.
I really don't, but I don't know.
Uh, well, so I guess we'll get going on to it here, guys. First of all, I want to give a big, huge thanks and shout out to, I don't know you, but thank you all for watching. Um, Becca's been posted a couple of times on a couple of our videos, and we appreciate it. And but still appreciate all you guys that have been listening, been watching, and hopefully you guys have been your hunts have uh, gotten done over with. Hopefully they're all safe, and hopefully you saw some success. Hopefully it wasn't harvesting, but maybe it was success in other ways. And but I guess on that topic, we Eric, you just got off of his hunt 2 weeks ago now,
Well, yeah, last week, really.
last week. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it was just last week.
Yeah.
Uh, I went out there with them. Out, I spent the opening weekend, Saturday to Monday. Had some good times. But I'll go ahead and let Eric kind of take it over. I guess tell us about your hunt, Eric.
Yeah. So, like Joe said, he came up with me. I had my father-in-law with me. I had my son with me. Uh, my father-in-law and my son were with me Saturday and Sunday. We went out hunting Saturday morning, hunted, kind of walked around, tried to figure out the layout of the land. Long story short, I was trying to not really focus so much on like getting an elk. I kind of wanted to be patient with it and scout and find a good place to like to scout and you know find a good area to hunt basically. And but at the same time, I was hunting hoping to come across an elk. Uh, had a lot of fun, like Joe said. We had a ton of fun hanging out together and good laughs, and I really enjoyed more people being with us, like I mean the last couple of years it's been me and you. A few times my son's been with us, but it's been me and you and to have a few more people, it was kind of fun. And so and then I do got to say though, before I get going any further, the one my son, he's only 9, and it's been kind of a tradition to take him out with me at some point during my elk hunt. And this year, I seen big improvement from him as far as getting around the woods. We walked quite a bit, uh, and he kept up. He stayed up with us. He didn't. I mean, he was a trooper, and so I was really proud of him for that. It was pretty exciting to see that growth in him this year. And but to get into the hunt part of it, the first thing that we noticed was how dry it was. Where we were at, it was really dry, and the vegetation just didn't seem to be there. We had cows to deal with. There's a lot of cows around. Couldn't figure out what they were even there for because it was so dry. It was hard to imagine what they were even eating themselves. Um, with that said, though, like that was kind of like the first sign of a little bit of struggle, or I don't know if struggle is the right word, but it was like the first sign of like, I wonder what this hunt's going to be like. And we went out and hiked around. The second challenge was the scrub oak. Every time we thought that we'd see like this opening over the crest of the hill, thought we could be able to glass over on the other side of the canyon, we'd break through this scrub oak, and then basically just to find more scrub oak to have to bust through to try to find a good glassing point. And so that was kind of getting a little frustrating. And we had a little bit of trouble with that. My father-in-law and my son ended up leaving Sunday night, and that was pretty much the kind of hunt that we were all in. I mean, just it was really hard to get good glassing points, or even just trying to travel our woods. The scrub oak was pretty gnarly, and just hard to really I kind of felt like we'd get down, we'd get out about 3/4 of a mile to maybe even a mile, and then the scrub oak would always like seem like it would just get too thick to be able to really maneuver around or see anything happening. So that was our one of our biggest troubles, and then the dryness too. And so Joe and I, on Monday, it was just me and him. I guess it was Monday or Sunday night that the snowstorm came in, right, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
started. We only had like an inch when we went to bed on Sunday night.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, about what, 5-6 inches or so came down that night, give or
Yeah.
take. I mean, it could have been a little more, a little less, but regardless, Joe and I woke up and kind of had the game plan to see if we could maybe go somewhere and find tracks, and then just follow tracks. And so at that point, we hopped in the trucks and drove up the road and kind of out of ways. Found ourselves in this one area. We decided, hey, let's try this dark timber out and walk it. So we started walking down this road, and we saw some cross tracks, and it looked like an elk. So after deciphering which way the elk was going, which we must have been right, or I'm assuming we were right, but we figured out which way the elk was going. So we were like, well, I mean, what else do we got to lose? And we just followed the tracks. And after hiking and following the tracks a while, um, I don't know. I kind of want you to tell this part of it because of what we saw.
Oh, yeah. So, so we get taken off, or we've, as Eric said, deciphered which way the tracks were going. We had a little bit of a confrontation as to which way they're going. He said they're one way. I said they're another way. More or less, Eric won. We went the way that he was saying. And, so we took off, went down, followed the tracks, and we got going down quite a ways. And a couple of times we had to stop, check the tracks out, confirm that we were heading in the correct direction. And, so as Eric said, it snowed that morning or that night, the Monday morning. So we knew the tracks were, fairly fresh. There was no snow inside the tracks. So we knew that, it was fairly early that Monday morning that these tracks were made. And so we get going along, and we stop for some reason to check the tracks out again or catch our breath. I don't remember which. And then we kind of, discuss like, oh, this is, the timber we're in is kind of cool. And we're like, what should we, well, we decide, we're going to keep going. And Eric takes off walking, and, he gets out in front of me a little bit. He's hunting, so he needs to be in front. I'm just there to help him. And he gets a couple steps out, and I hear this little snap. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I kind of scan around a little bit, I heard it from, so I turned to my right and do a little scan. I don't see anything, and I'm just about ready to start taking off walking again. And all of a sudden, there was this little ravine that was off to my right. And this and little, I mean, it was probably what, maybe 10 feet deep of a ravine. Like it wasn't big, but it was, you could hide a guy in there and look right over the top of him
Yep.
easily. And so then, my eye catches this movement, and up out of this little ravine, this little black bear comes up, gets to the top of this little, like this, little ravine gully thing, I guess, or creek bottom, I get maybe better thing to call it. And it looks over at me. We make eye contact, and it just takes off running the other direction. And I was like, Eric, get back here, get back here. Look, a bear, a bear. And he comes back, and luckily that bear just like more or less takes a straight run. And it just happened to be in like this in between, like a straight shot of these trees. Like there's not, for a long ways there's no trees growing. So Eric got to see it too. And but that was kind of cool. It was fun. And what were we, 20 yards away from, maybe 30, 40 yards at the most.
Yeah, I would favor 20 to 30. Honest, I mean, it wasn't that far away from us, and
No.
that's where it's kind of disappointing for my side of it, because I didn't see it until it was probably about 100 yards down the,
Right.
down the opening, because you're like, bear.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, where? And I'm looking around. Then I just see him hauling around the corner into the deep dark timber. So I just kind of saw the backside of him at the very end of it. I didn't see him up close. So I was kind of bummed out that I didn't get to see that, but it was still a cool experience. And I couldn't believe, like, it made me realize how, because I was so focused on like kind of looking at the tracks and looking ahead of me and looking where the tracks were going. And I was like, I need to be a little more aware, man. There was a bear 30 yards away from us, and I didn't even realize it, So I was kind of, that was, yeah, that was a little different, different feeling, but really cool
Yeah.
experience though. It was a really cool experience. I wish that we could have got it on film or something.
No, for sure. That was, yeah, it was fun. It was kind of the first, well, I've seen him in the woods and I've been out before, but it was fun that it was nice that it, turned and ran away from us. And he was a little, he wasn't a big bear. He was a black bear, but he had a brown color to him.
Yeah.
Not quite a cinnamon color to him, but he was more brown than black. And he wasn't too big of a bear. But
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of, you we're out there to hunt. And so our main goal is to fill your tag. And that would be the highlight of the whole hunt, to fill your tag. But like at the same time, this experience that that we had in the woods with this bear, like it evidently it turned out as a good experience. It would have been better if we had a camera, but it was just fun though to be able to be there to see it. Like, it was almost made the hunt, like it made I guess the hunt or our camping experience, that much better than just camping.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It was definitely the highlight of the whole trip, seeing the bear. I mean, we weren't looking for bear or anything, but seeing the bear. And then, no, like I said, I didn't see him. I didn't see him at 30. I didn't see him at the 20, 30 yards away, but just knowing that he was only 20, 30 yards away from us, like, it was kind of cool. Like, being like, man, I can't believe which in a way kind of tells me we must have been doing something right, because we snuck up on a bear. I mean, it is what it is, but usually, they say that bears usually take off when you're tromping through the woods, that they usually take off way before you ever know they're there. And we
Right.
basically kind of snuck up. I mean, well, we snuck up on each other. I mean, I think we kind of scared, he was scared. We were, startled, I should say, not really scared, but because I didn't feel scared or anything. I just
No.
definitely startled us. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I that's the other thing. I need to get better at taking dang pictures. Like it was, the cool thing was we could have took pictures of his tracks, and like he slid down a log to get into this ravine, and it looked like he was getting into like maybe a place to hibernate for the winter. There's a little hole under this log. It looked like he was probably trying to get into.
Yeah.
But like I didn't, I kind of thought about taking a picture, but I didn't. But like,
Yeah.
how cool would that have been to have that picture of what happened? You know,
Yeah. Kind of tell
can't
the
recreate
story.
it.
Yeah. I know we should have
Yeah,
took a few minutes and maybe even made like a short story or something for Instagram or something. Kind of talk about it.
yeah,
No, that's something that Joe and I we definitely talked about during the trip because um I don't know if we'll ever really show the footage because there's not really much to show, but we did take a little bit of film. We were trying to make like some kind of hunting video out of it. But anyway, long story short, we just didn't quite make like we were talking about it and like I don't know, we're just kind of bad photographer or bad camera people. I mean,
right.
half the time it was the camera was off or I don't know, just but at the end of the day it is what it is. And yeah, we do need to we probably whenever we're together we need to remind each other to just, hey, this is a good picture moment instead of like because you're right. I mean, there was tracks, there was the slide mark, the what it looked like he was gonna, and we just like, oh, that's cool, let's go. I mean,
Yeah, right.
I guess it's kind of good though. We're kind of one track focused. We are looking for elk, so I guess it all kind of makes sense or comes back around. But we should like now that you say that, I'm like, yeah, why didn't we take pictures?
Right.
But so anyway, so yeah, we saw the bear, and then we followed the tracks. We kept following the tracks, and
On the elk tracks, not the bear
yeah,
tracks. Back
yeah.
on the elk tracks.
We're back on elk tracks. We kept following the elk tracks and not really knowing if we would even come across anything. We just kind of knew we were headed the same direction that the elk were. And I really wish, there was something that you said, which I kind of got a little more to that too, but there was something that you said so we pop out into this clearing, and as we're popping out, I see this cow elk. And Joe, I don't know. You probably saw me the whole time. I put my hand up like stop or whatever, but
That's what stopped me, was you telling me to stop. So
oh really? Oh, okay.
yeah,
Cool. I didn't know. I didn't know if I mean, I was like, he might have saw it. I kind of thought about it later and I'm like, I wonder if he saw that before I did or, but anyway, so we saw this cow elk, and something that Joe brought up is we saw this cow elk. I got pretty excited. I mean, it was our first elk that we saw. So I was pretty excited and kind of staring at it, hoping that it would grow horns in the next 30 seconds. Never did, obviously, but Joe said, he's like, oh, I was kind of hoping like maybe a bull elk would be popping up right behind it. And when you said that, I started thinking about that later on. And I was like, I wish that I would have spotted that elk when we were kind of a little further in the dark timber. And because maybe, just maybe, that could have happened, if we would have been patient, stayed back a little bit, that might have happened. But anyways, the elk saw us too. We kind of saw each other at the same time. It was kind of an exciting point of the hunt because we were finally into some elk. But about that time, so we kind of circled back around and to kind of finish off Monday, I guess, for a Monday hunt, Joe had to get back home. So we kind of
yeah,
circled back around back to the pickup. Nothing really happened with that elk. But my plan is I thought about going back that afternoon, but my plan was I was like, well, I don't really want to blow up the area. So I'll just try to get here in the morning and hopefully I'll see some movement. So Joe takes off, goes back home. I actually ended up going to town because I needed to get a few supplies, and one of my tires on my pickup truck was kind of low, so it was kind of making me nervous, especially since I was going to be by myself for the next few days. I was like, I don't need this tire going flat on me. So I went back to town and put some air anyway, moving on from that, I got back up to camp that night. I went back out the next morning on Tuesday, and I went right back to that spot. And I sat there for I don't know, like 5 hours, whatever, and about 5 hours, give or take. And I sat there and sat there and sat there. I had this thought. I've never done tree stand hunting, and I wasn't in a tree
Uh-huh.
or anything, but I was trying to set back in the dark timber a little bit, but where I could see the clear cut, or the opening rather, the little meadow. It was kind of a smaller meadow. It seemed a little smaller the next day whenever I got there than what it looked like the day before. But anyway, I I was sitting there and I was like, I don't know how tree hunters do it, man. Just sitting in one spot for hours upon hours. Cause I was sitting on the ground, but I was like, this is tough. And so I sat there for like 5 hours, and finally I kind of completely by myself, and I did move around a little bit. I moved to a couple different spots, thinking my thought process was like, I'd be sitting there looking around. I'm like, do I have any good clear shooting lanes? And I'm like, I think over here might be a better shooting lane. So I try it. Um, and I was probably doing that a little bit out of boredom, just because I was so bored of sitting in one spot. And so anyways, I was in that opening for about 5 hours or so, and then I kind of just called it. I was like, I haven't seen nothing. I looked around, and I'm like, all these tracks that were in this spot. Oh, that's something. So the day before, that was the other thing that kind of got us hyped up, is not just because we saw that cow elk, but we saw multiple other tracks in that area.
Yeah.
And so we were like, man, it seems like it's like a pathway or something for these elk to be walking through this one area. So the next day I went there and I was kind of looking around, and I'm like, all these tracks kind of look about the same. Like there wasn't nothing fresh or new that popped through there since we jumped that cow. And something that I did before I took off is I was like, I tried to remember where exactly we saw that cow, and I was kind of walking around. I found its tracks, and it actually we must have scared the piss out of it, because there was a pee spot right there. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, so I follow or I found her tracks and saw where she ran back off into the dark timber, and so at that point I kind of just made a big circle back to my pickup, and circled back there and went back to my pickup. And really I came up short, and I feel like I've been kind of talking about it. So after that experience, my camp was probably 10 or so miles away. And I kind of wanted to keep hunting that area, but in my mind I was like, well, the reason that I camped where I was is because this was supposed to be the area that all the elk were. And I feel like I'm kind of wasting time driving back and forth to that dark timber area where we saw the cow elk. So I was like, I just want to hunt out of camp and just, go through there. So for the next few days, that's what I did. I pretty much went back to the area, tried to learn the land a little bit. I found I wouldn't say they were great glassing spots. Basically, the thing is when you leave where we were camped at, there was a canyon, and the struggle was I didn't necessarily want to get to the other side of the canyon, but I wanted to have a good visual of the other side of the canyon, and that was the hardest struggle. Well, both of those actually was a struggle, was trying to figure out a path to get to the other side of the canyon in case I did get something, or in case I did want to go hike over on that side. It was a struggle to try to get over there. And the other thing is it was kind of a struggle to find a good glassing point. So, and it was mostly just that scrub oak. It was just grew so wild. It just had no rhyme or meaning to how thick it was. And so I'm kind of trying to shorten this up. I pretty much ended up not being successful in my hunt. And, I mean, I tried my hardest, man. It was really tough. It was really, something that you said, Joe, before you left, and, being by myself, and, there was some deep emotions that were kind of coming out in me. And, yeah, it was kind of hard to handle. I kind of felt like, I put all this energy and focus on and excitement on the idea of getting an elk, and I was just coming up short, and it was kind of hard to handle. It was kind of hard to take that loss. And there's a couple things though, like and one of so there's a lot of reasons, and I had this conversation with my wife, and not taking something home, kind of, it was kind of upsetting for that reason, because I really wanted to bring some home to my family, some meat. And then also doing this podcast and talking about hunting. And I mean, we can have all the passion in the world, but not coming out not successful really ate at me, and just really tough dealing with that psychologically. Because I wanted to kind of, be able to maybe gloat for the next year that I got an elk. And, um, with this podcast, it meant a lot to me to try to get an elk. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know if I'm having the hard time trying to find the right words to what I'm trying to say, but it was a tough situation with that, just accepting the idea that I wasn't going to take something home this year. And, but one thing I want to say about that is I don't know the details to it. I don't know the circumstance. I don't really know everything to it, but I remember listening to one of Randy Newberg's um, YouTube videos, and he was talking about, I can't remember what he was talking about, but in there he said when we first started this, I wasn't successful for 3 years. And so it kind of makes me feel better that like he's, a professional hunter or whatever, but he's kind of been there and done that too. Like he, tried to make content and came up short. And I don't know what that means, because I haven't been following him that long, I guess. I've been following him probably the last 3 or 4 years, but before that, I don't really know a lot of his backstory. But I do remember that what he said, and so it kind of makes me feel better for that the fact that, like, hey, even Randy wasn't successful for the first 3 years. I mean,
Right.
the only thing with that though is he might have meant like I wasn't successful in elk hunting for but I did get my deer, or I did go get my moose in Alaska. I don't know, but I know that he said that, so I'm hanging on to that little nugget. And but it's just kind of a hard deal, especially first year doing a hunting podcast, and everything kind of riding on it like that. It was hard to deal with, but kind of I don't really know what I don't know. I guess I don't really know what to say, but I do want to kind of highlight like the idea or the fact that Joe, again, was able to come down. And I mean, I don't think that tradition is going to stop anytime soon. So, I mean, but it's still enjoyable to have you come all the way over here be able to hunt with me for at least a few days. And I mean, that's the funnest part. I hunted by myself for 3 days, and it's tough to stay motivated whenever you don't have nobody with you. And so
It is.
it was, in a weird way, it was a successful hunt that I got to do it with my buddy and my family too, my
Right.
father-in-law and my son. So I mean, I did have a successful hunt in that if you look at it in that lens. Um, I got
Right.
to hunt with the people that I care about, and I mean, it was good that way, and we had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, and I mean, it's always a good time. Uh, when me and Joe are hunting together, it's always a good time. We get frustrated together, not necessarily at each other, but more like we get frustrated at the fact that we're not seeing nothing or whatever. Um, but no, we have a good time, and I don't know, I wouldn't replace that with anything. So thanks for coming on the hunt with me, and I really enjoyed everything
Yeah.
that you helped me with. Um, I'm trying to think, or I guess at this point, Joe, do you have any questions for me or anything like that? Like, or do you have anything to add to any of this?
Um, well, yeah, I'll start off by saying, like, yeah, no, it was a great time to be able to go out with you, and I appreciate you letting me even tag along with you. And I guess, go through kind of, I know you're at kind of the high of the hard times at the beginning of the hunt. You got to experience the low of the hard times at the end of the hunt. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's definitely, this whole thing of struggling hunters and being a hunter, like it's trying to, for both of us, we've hunted. I don't, is there a difference between hunters and being, I don't, how am I trying to say this? You have those guys that really understand and, are fairly successful every year. And like, before this, I thought I was a hunter, but, I don't know that I am a hunter, you know,
Well,
but
yeah, I
I
feel
think,
to add in there, I feel the same way. I mean, I've hunted all my life. I've had my successes. I've had years where I haven't been successful, but more so this year, probably than any other year, I feel less of a hunter than ever, for sure.
yeah, yeah, it is different, like talking about our hard times and trying to convey that, heart with the heartfelt message behind it and not, seem fake. And um, but uh, you know, there's always a takeaway. I got takeaway questions, but I feel like we went down that rabbit hole would be here all night because we can always discuss arm back or the what do you call it, the armchair quarterback afterwards. We can spend hours on the should have been, could have, or would have if I would have done this, like, or you know who knows. But yeah, I guess I don't really have any true questions right now, but other than I was gonna try to bring up something about being out there all by yourself and trying to stay motivated because I know it's hard.
Yeah,
Trying to be like, okay, I'm getting up at in the morning and I'm not, like I am gonna go hunting. I'm not gonna go out at 10.
yeah. That wasn't too bad. I think in the afternoon hunts were I I I I subconsciously did it. I think it wasn't like intentional, but I don't think I hunted quite as hard in the afternoon hunts by myself. Mostly the thought was is like it getting dark, trying to figure out how to process the animal. If I was to get successful, how to process the animal in the dark and trying to pack it out all through the night and like that whole thing. So like in the evenings, I kind of took it a little easier, I guess you could say. Didn't take
No,
it
I
quite
can
as
see
serious.
that.
Yeah. But
I can see that because especially being by yourself, like, you don't want to be that person that gets lost or gets hurt, because you're by yourself.
right. And yeah, that thought kind of came in my mind too. Like, um, I don't have, I've never, I don't have like I'm not known to like roll my ankle or anything, but I'm like, man, you know how bad that would suck if I rolled my ankle out here trying to limp back to the pickup for help or whatever the case may be, if so like those kind
Yeah.
of thoughts creeped in my mind. But yeah, in the morning, like one thing that I told myself, cause there was a few times that it was like, I think because like I was coming up short, like I wasn't seeing a lot of activity. I guess that's something that I could add to the whole thing is I wasn't seeing much activity at all. I didn't see deer or elk. I wasn't seeing, usually you're out there and a doe will pop up out of somewhere. And where we were, and I blame a lot of it on being so dry in that area. I think that there was just such little vegetation. There was just nothing there for the deer and elk to even want to go there because there was just nothing there for vegetation. It's just a bad year. We just had a really bad dry year, and I think that spot that I was in really suffered the consequences of it and didn't have much activity in there. Because like I said, I wasn't even seeing. Usually like everywhere I go, I always a doe at least pops up, and I wasn't even seeing that. I wasn't, I would like where I could glass. I could see a lot of land where I could glass. It wasn't. I guess whenever I was say like a prime area to glass is like, um, whenever I say that, I guess what comes to my mind is something that's like in shooting range from my glassing point. And a lot of places that I was finding myself and I could glass and I could see a lot of area. I wasn't in shooting range. I'd have to cut the distance to be
Right.
able to, so it wasn't that I couldn't see anything, but I mean, I could see a lot of mountainside, but I could never find myself like close enough, a good glassing point where I was close enough that, oh, hey, there's something that popped out, 200, 300 yards away. I'm going to take a crack at it. That's kind of what I mean whenever I couldn't find good glassing points. Um, But with that said, though, I just never seen much activity. I mean, for as much landed as I was scanning over and you know, uh, looking and looking and looking, I just never seen the activity. Not even from deer, not even from does. I feel like every hunt season, every year I've ever went out, um, I always stumble across at least a doe. And like I said,
Right.
just this year it just wasn't there. Uh, I feel like there's another point I was going to make. Oh, yeah, that's another thing too is anybody out there that's never done a solo hunt, for me, and I know everybody's different, but for me, like the first day and the second day was a little weird. I feel like kind of in the middle of the second day though, it started to get less of a weird feeling. Like the first day I was like, I think because like crossing that bear, because and I went back into that same area. We jumped that bear not that far away from where we saw the cow and blah blah blah. And so whenever I was sitting there in that area completely by myself, like I felt a little bit weird, if you will. Um, but the lone like feeling a little bit lonely. Um, the first day was probably the like kind of the worst because it was like my first day completely by myself with my own thoughts and everything. But I'd say by the third day, which the third day is whenever I went home. So I don't know. It is what it is on that. But But by the third day, it almost started to feel normal to be completely by myself. Like it wasn't, it didn't hang on. That weird feeling of being alone, it wasn't hanging on to me. I kind of felt normal after the third day. Like I felt good. I don't know. I mean, it just wasn't the only reason I went home, and I probably could have held tough, but there was a couple reasons behind it. I felt like I just was not finding success, so I was really frustrated. I was really frustrated at not even seeing activity. You know, I was just really frustrated in that aspect of it. And the other reason I went home, I was gonna go home the next day anyway. So it's, I mean, I missed basically like a night hunt and a morning hunt because my plan was to go home the next day because I had to get some stuff done anyway. But I went home a day early, and the biggest reason why is because my propane heater ran out of I ran out of propane, and so I was like, I ain't gonna freeze all night, and so I was like, I'm gonna cut back home and you know, break down camp. But I think I I feel like I could have toughed it out. Obviously, I could have toughed it out and stayed up there another night, even without the heater. But I was so frustrated, and I just felt like it just was not going my way. I was just kind of done in a way. But at the same time, we're saying that the third day of being out there by myself, I felt the most comfortable that kind of the evening of the second day and the third day. The weirdness of being by myself wasn't really, it kind of was getting more normalized. I don't know how, I'm trying to find a better way to say that, and I can't really think of a better way to say it, but I don't know. That was just
Yeah,
my experience. What's that?
you're just becoming comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was really weird. And I don't know. I mean, it wasn't that bad. So like after my evening hunt was done, I'd drive up the road, and I'd get like a few bars of service. So I'd call my wife and talk to her for the night or whatever, and tell her good night and all that. So I guess like in a way I wasn't completely by myself. Like, if something crazy was to happen, I could probably, work my way up and get service and get help or whatever. So I mean, I guess there was that comfort there, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how some of these guys do those backcountry hunts for like 10 days or the solo hunts. I mean, that
Right.
that might be a little much, little extreme, but that's pretty much my experience of the hunt. And I don't know, that's just where it at. I do got one more thing to add. I'm not 100% if I'll do this, so I guess you'll find out next podcast. But I think in Colorado, I haven't practiced this. I've had other people pretty confident tell me that you can do this, and I haven't practiced it for myself. But uh, the next or third season's pretty much going on right now. I might try to buy another tag for third season because I've heard that you can, as long as you weren't successful, you can buy another tag. So I'm gonna try to practice. I'm gonna try to exercise that and get another tag for this coming week and pretty much hunt in the evenings. Completely different area, obviously, but so there. If I do end up doing that, there might be another chance for me to get a animal this year. Is kind of what I'm getting at. So
Gotcha. That'll be fun
yeah,
if it does work out, especially if you get something.
yeah, especially if I get something. I kind of got some high hopes. Well, no, I don't actually, but I I do kind of I if I can get another tag, I'm excited at the idea that I have another chance. I have a little more of a chance. That's the one thing that I mean, I guess I kind of get it because Colorado, it's kind of a toss up. So where we lived, hunting or in Idaho, I know we brought this up in the past in in previous podcasts, but in Idaho, I know at least at one time, whenever you bought your tags, they were good for like a month. And you actually had time to try to get your animal. And then for deer, I think it was like even a month and a half, or maybe even close to 2 months, or just shy of 2 months. Either way, there was a lot of time there. And out here in Colorado, it's 1 week per season. And I think I kind of get it because Colorado is a little more populated. So, it'd be too much pressure for that period of time. Um, I think is what they're, trying to split up there is the pressure side of it, and trying to split people up. So, certain everybody has their own season. There's 4 seasons, not counting archery and black powder.
Oh,
4 rifle seasons. So you got your first season, second season, third season, fourth season. I think first and fourth are more of a draw. Don't quote me on that, but and then second and third is more over the counter stuff. So, I mean, I get why they do it, but my whole point in saying all that is, on a personal level, it just kind of sucks that I get 9 days, and if I don't find nothing in those 9 days, I'm, better luck next year. I mean, you know what I mean?
right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. That's the rules out here, and I think I kind of understand why they're the rules, but I wish that they kind of, I wish it was more like Idaho where you could hunt. You'd have because I think elk for rifle was always like a month long, and then deer were like a month and a half long, or maybe even longer, because there was
Yeah.
always a late season unit too that you could go to almost every year.
Right. Yeah.
So all I'm getting at is I kind of wish it was more like that, because obviously it increases your chances because you can be out there more. But also to add, kind of dragging this on, but I do want to get this out. Like, I probably made a ton of mistakes out there, things that I could have done better, maybe even figured out better areas to go. But the one thing is, I was out there and I was, trying to find success. Like, I don't know what more to really add to that. Because I kept racking my brain about that. I kept, what am I missing? Why am I not seeing even activity? And I was really getting frustrated because of that, because I was like, I don't know what I'm missing here. I don't feel like I'm making a lot of mistakes. I feel like I'm trying to do all the right things. I'm trying to go to where, I think they would be, or where I feel they'd be. I have a whole canyon to glass. I mean, I was glassing so much area. I mean, I just wasn't seeing anything. So I know I made mistakes. It's just at this point in time, I just not 100% sure how to really break that down, because I felt like I was doing everything that I could think of doing to help my chances for success, and I was just coming up short. So I don't know. That's kind of, I think that's all I got.
Yeah. So I guess that's all you got. I'll just go ahead and share a little bit. So I went out this evening here in Utah doing the late archery season. I almost had success on a little buck, I think a little 3 point. Wasn't, he wasn't a little guy, but um, not that I really could have done anything too different. Like, I can say what I should have done different now because it's happened, but so more or less I worked my way along this hillside, cutting through this scrub oak stuff, and kind of thinking like, well, no one else has probably done this, and I found some trash, so someone else did at one point, and
Somebody
and
else
I
was
found
thinking,
that
somebody else was thinking just like you.
Yeah, exactly. And but I found this like little meadow, two little meadows on Onyx. I'll head and I think I can make it there before it gets dark. And I got close to it, and I got to where I could see it. I was 260 yards. I pulled out my rangefinder and ranged it. And so I was like, well, I'm close enough that, and it's getting late enough that it's going to start getting dark. And I kind of want to set and settle down and let the area settle down and hopefully allow stuff to move. And, and so I sat down and, you know, and I was like, oh, I should move up around. I was kind of on this little bit of like what do you call a little ridge in this canyon. And I was on this west side of it, and I thought about going up around a little bit more on in this little ridge, and I was like, oh no, I'll just sit here because I could see all this side to my right, and if I went over there, I wouldn't be able to see this over here, and I was like, oh, continue working your way over to that meadow. You got time. I was like, no, I really want the area to settle down. So I convinced myself to settle down, set where I was at, and um, get looking across at that meadow that I was wanting to get to, and I saw turkeys go work their way through it. I was like, oh man, I could have been that close to turkeys if I would have went over there, and then I was like, oh well, that's cool, I got to see some turkeys, and so then I happened to look back over there after sitting for a little bit, and there was this little 3-point buck he didn't stop in the middle. He just entered from one side and exited the other side, just kept walking through. I think the rut's getting on. I think he was maybe trying to find some does.
Mm.
And so I kind of lost him in the brush. And, the whole thing back of my head was, well, get up and see if you can work your way over in there quietly and, get up on him. And I was like, oh, yeah, I tell yourself that, but at the same time, realize that it's scrub oak you got to go through. And not only is it scrub oak, but it's, dried scrub oak and dried leaves. And, you're not going to get there too quietly. It's like, so you're like, your best thing is just to sit here and allow things to play out. So that way you can see what's in the area. So, all right, fine. I'll sit here. So the deer makes it, like I said, made his way out the one side of the meadow, and I couldn't follow him. It got too thick. He just disappeared. And so I'm sitting there and I glass back over, seeing if he, is in that area around that meadow, and never see him. And I look back over, and without my binoculars put up, I can see movement on one of the sides of the meadow. Like, oh, maybe that's him. So I put my glasses back up, and it was those turkeys. They made their way back up into the meadow, and like, oh, that's cool, And then I'm sitting there, and it's getting closer to dark, and I just hear this crash, boom, bang, like something's going through the scrub oak, and it's big. Like it wasn't just a quiet crash, like it was like a crack, it was loud. I was like, yes, something's moving. It could be an elk. And so I pick up my bow, knock my arrow, and I'm sitting there, I'm quiet, and all, the noise just settles up. Like, oh, just be patient. Whatever it is moving. It's moving. So you should be able to see it no matter what it does. It's like, yeah, I should. And finally the adrenaline goes away, and so I set my bow back down and go back to glassing, and then I hear kind of some rustling around some more, and start scanning with my binoculars in the scrub oak, and see this turkey fly up in the scrub oak, and it lands on a bush, and it kind of cracks a little bit. So it's dang. So I determined what it was those dang turkeys flying up in the scrub oak, and the branches not being heavy enough to hold them, and then breaking branches and falling back to the ground.
Oh man.
So anyways, that was kind of fun. That was kind of cool in a way too. Like they'd jump up on these scrub oak branches, and then they'd fan out their feathers to help keep balance, like
Yeah.
as they're rocking, their tail feathers would just be like doing what they need to stay up. And so that was kind of fun to watch. And um, then one of them got tired of sitting on the scrub oak because I don't know if they weren't high enough off the ground and branches probably weren't strong enough, but they flew quite to the other side of the canyon up in the top of a pine tree. And one of them took off, and I think about 4 or 5 of them followed it. That was kind of fun to watch too. It wasn't just like a short fly. I guess they kind of more glided and flew.
Yeah.
But they went a long distance,
Yeah.
and so the whole time. So at this time, it's starting to get darker, and I'm like, I'm kind of like, I was like, well, maybe hunt my way out. So that way, if I do see something, I have opportunity to shoot. I was like, oh no, you want to see what's in the area. So I stuck around, stayed a little bit longer, and then I was like, all right, it's time to get up and, put my pack on, and I get the momentum, rocking a little bit, and then finally stand up. And just as I stand up, I can see further down the hill, and there's this, I think it's that same buck that went through that clearing. He was staring right at me. And
Yeah.
but as soon as I saw him, I sat right back down and put my binoculars back up. And, I saw that his antlers, he wasn't huge, but, he wasn't a little 3-point either. So I was like, all right, yeah, maybe he'll keep working his way up. But he didn't. He stood there for a second, turned around, and ran back the other way.
Ah.
But, being the armchair quarterback again, had I made my way around the top of that knoll and dropped down a little bit, I probably could have set myself up for a shot. But again, I don't know. I didn't know that then. So,
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'm
That's
going
tough.
back out tomorrow. And
Well, at least you're seeing activity though. Also,
true.
I mean,
True.
I think that's a big part of the game. It's one of the things that was really frustrating for me is just not coming across the activity. It's really hard to stay in the game whenever you're not even seeing anything. So at least you're seeing stuff tonight.
Right. Yeah, it got me excited. Hopefully I didn't scare him out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm optimistic.
Yeah. That'll be exciting, man. That'll be awesome. That'll be really good.
So yeah, so that's a catch up on my hunt right now, I guess, for the moment. But I don't. Do you have anything else, Eric?
Nah, I kind of ran out for tonight. I think we're kind of running this one a little long to anyway, so probably
Yeah,
get out while the getting's good.
true. So with that being said, thanks again for watching, guys. Hopefully, you're picking something up, and hopefully we're picking something up too. That's one of the benefits of doing these podcasts is it gives us an opportunity to talk about our hunts and not only live the hunt, but talk about the hunt and maybe even pick up on those little things that can make the hunt better for the next time. And hopefully you guys are too. But
Yeah.
I guess thanks for listening. I'll catch you guys again.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for listening.